Yeah, just aiming here. This ain't going to be a very long video. I mean, this is not going to be a very long video. Getting back to this car. Done a video on it about this morning, and like I said, I've had it for 21st year, 22nd year, whatever. Long time. I was in the 30s when I got it. Now I'm in the late 50s. Yeah. I've modified this car. Like I said, there's bits and pieces all over it that I've personally modified it. I'm going to get, the next thing I do is this bottom wishbone from the suspension. I'm going to get RRS strengthened up ones, because I just want to do a few different things to it. I'll keep all the other ones, but this one here on the right hand side anyhow is off an XC, it's not off an XB. And that radius rod there, this rod here, one's different to the other, because one of mine was worn out. I got it from a Ford wrecker years ago, but the right hand side of this car here's had a bit of a hit, and they've swapped it out for later model off an XC, so they tell me, but I'm going to get strengthened up RRS ones. You can see there, all started in the bottom end to hold the crank. Now, I watch a lot of stuff on these Cleveland engines. We're talking production engines, we're not talking aftermarket crate engines. We're talking an engine that was built in the early 1970s, not an engine that's built today. So these engines are only 2-bolt, the majority of them, 2-bolt bottom end. This one here is a studded. I haven't had the block grout filled or anything. They tell me that you can probably make 550 horsepower natural, because naturally aspirated engines, it's harder on them for the simple reason revs and whatever else, where turbocharging is easier on crankshafts, not even though they produce massive power. They're less likely to fail. You can read up on all that. I've read up on all that. I'm not going to sit here and explain it. Don't have to. Couldn't care what other people think. But I've just built this car, bits and pieces on this. Got this built and done stuff on it myself. Son and I too, welding. Just to make it better. I can just show you here. It's a weld here. Put more welds on that there. When this engine comes out again, I'm going to seam weld front end just to stiffen it up, just to make it a better car. They say don't touch them, but in the grand scheme of things, 1,950 cars is a small amount of number. And they say, oh, you're actually reducing the value of them. Well, you sit back and think about it. And I'll put this to you. I was talking to a bloke. Do you think that if James Dean's Porsche still existed in one piece, and I'm not saying I'm James Dean, but do you think James Dean's car would be worth less than in the same condition without James Dean driving it, or if it had James Dean driving it? And I'm sure he'd probably done his modifications over his little Porsche before he got wiped out in it, or whatever, it doesn't matter. Alan Moffat's cars. You go, that's an Alan Moffat car, that's worth more money because Alan Moffat drove it. Peter Brock's car's more money because Peter Brock drove it. And I'm talking about these are gun-ho racing car drivers of their day. And I'm not saying I'm that, I'm far from that, but this car here has my personal touches. Now, you could say, oh no, well you're just a person, a nobody. Now, that's correct. But I'm saying that people like David Bowden, the Bowden brothers, two Bowden brothers, any of their cars that they've personally owned, I think you'll find they get a bit better money for them than someone with just the same car, the average punter, because that's say there. So this car has a lot of its original patina on it. It's got cracks in the paint, non-restored, good body for a non-restored one, very good body actually, very minimal rust in it. It wouldn't have seen 3 wet days in the last 20 odd years. I don't wash it anymore, I just run over it with some dry wash and cloth and rust proof it. But I'm going to leave it at that. But no, there's a lot of little things on this car that are different. I'll just show you. Couldn't sort of get up under it. Yeah, that brace that I was talking about. That brace. These are the end of my pacemaker extractors. There's that brace there. I don't know if you can see it. Hand in it. There it is there. So that's it there, and it runs from this plate. This big plate. So here, this big plate all welded on there, right down to the eye bolt that goes through the front of the spring. That's, I don't know if I can get it to show you. There it is there running down. RPR, race something or other, I just can't remember. I did read it, what it stood for. Yeah, there's just little things that I've done in this car. And they have the specifications of these, what I was saying before about these being a pretty good thing in their day. They're a well-made car. The Cleveland engine, Ford in the US poached a heap of GM engineers in the day. As I understand, Larry Schneider, father of the Boss Mustang. Larry Schneider obviously doing the rat engines, the big block Chevs, or being involved in all that, and they could clearly see that they could make more power with canted valves or polyangle valves, just better flow rates, big ports. Let's face it, an engine is a compressor. It's an air compressor. The more air you can get in, the more air you can get out, the more power you can make naturally aspirated, and that's a fact. Go and have a look at any of it. And Lee Iacocca, those fellas, they poached a fair few apparently, the GM head honchos that were into the racing side of things, and I do believe that the Cleveland engine probably reflects a fair bit of the thinking of the day. As I understand, you can probably do successfully 550 horsepower with a Cleveland block that's a reasonable block. Look at some drag boss in the USA. He does a lot of Cleveland stuff. He loves them. Look, I'm going to leave it at that. But yeah, this is just a modified cylinder heads, Barry Grant Mighty Demon 750 double pumper, single plane Wyand medium riser manifold, ported heads, roller rockers, better valve springs, bigger cam, stage 3 camshaft in the stages. Specs I could get them, but it doesn't matter. Who really cares? These things have a massive radiator in them. Where am I going from the front to the back? I've got a better harmonic balance, better crank, better rods, better pistons, better bolts, all ARP bolts, pacemaker extractors, 4 into a cone, into one big collector, I suppose you'd call it. Short shaft top loader, 28 spline XBXC differential. They stopped them in the XCs, and this is a disc brake one. They're massive in the wheel bearings. They've got 2 wheel bearings side by side, actually really big. 4-wheel disc standard, I think maybe 290 mil or 300 mil. Nothing massive compared to today's stuff. What else have we got? I don't know if there's anything else I can really tell you. 128 litre fuel tank, I think, 130 litre. It's the big tank of the day. 28 gallons. Phase 3's at a 36, phase 2, phase 1's, phase 2's and phase 3's at a 36 gallon fuel tank. But like I was saying there before, by the time these things rolled around in the supercar Scarrett Bean, that's all well documented. So the Group C formula, they started Group C, which run from I think 1974 through to 1984, culmination of the XE Falcon, which is Dick Johnson's Green's Tough. That's a culmination of that, and the VK Commodores, which Marlborough Holden dealer team done a 1-2 at Bathurst. They done a lot of 1-2ing that year. Brocky's cars, and they were the Dayglow. They were the Dayglow VKs, beautiful looking things. I've seen them in the flesh, and also Dick Johnson wrapped up the touring car title in his XE Green's Tough. So that was the end of the Group C era, and that started in 74, went through to 84, 10 years. In my opinion, they're very serious production-based cars, very production-based cars, to the detriment of probably safety in the suspension department. But other than that, I'll leave it at that. That's my Mick, out.